It has never been more important for businesses to understand why they win and lose. As such, thank you, Closed, for putting together Win-Loss Week and for hosting our panel. Any company that is looking to boost revenue growth and win, they need to continuously innovate and launch new products and or services. So products are a source of significant growth for businesses. I think everyone can attest to that. But unless organizations, especially in the SaaS world, can master product launches, the full value of those products are going to remain out of reach. And more importantly, the odds of winning diminish. Yet, Gartner, OpenView Partners, hey there, Kyle Poyar, both state that 50% of B2B product launches fail. 50% plus of B2B product launches fail. My name is Rowan Nerona, founder of the product marketing community, husband and father of 3, and recently named VP Product Content and Partner Marketing at Showpad. I'm joined today by 3, thanks Jason, SaaS leaders who bring to the table 3 unique perspectives on product launch. We have 2 product marketing leaders, one from an enterprise organization, the other from a high growth company, and a CEO who is going to provide a viewpoint on why product launches need to be led top down and ought to be a very strategic initiative and a strategic disciplined way of doing things in any organization, enterprise or startup. Ryan, Eric, Jason, welcome. And Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Ryan Bohm. I am the Director of Product Marketing over at Gong, that high growth company that was just mentioned. I've been here for about 8 months now, shocking how time flies, after spending 3 years over at Salesforce. So the enterprise company will also be hearing from today. I am a new dog mom, so if you hear some barking in the background, it's just some extra bonus here.
Did you say dogma? Or dog mom.
I have a little puppy that is hopefully not joining this call today.
Got it. I thought you were a dogma in your own self.
Oh,
wow.
No, okay. Dog mom.
Eric, speaking of Salesforce, welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Eric Thum, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Salesforce. Been there for about 5.5 years, so time does fly, as Ryan just said. We actually had a chance to work together when she was at Salesforce, so it's kind of a fun reunion. Team I'm on now is called Global Strategic Launches, and we are a cross-product team that is tasked with the biggest product launches that Salesforce does across the board. So this topic is super timely, super relevant. The analogy of conducting an orchestra is something I brought back to team meetings, and it is spot on, and excited to share some thoughts with everyone today.
And last but not least, what a beauty. It's a Canadian phrase. Jason Smith, CEO of Clue.
Thanks, Rowan. I thought I was the enterprise company. What's Salesforce? Come on. That's great. Thanks for introducing. Jason Smith, founder and CEO of Clue. We're a competitive enablement platform. So about a 100-person company, currently single product company. Background, 5-time entrepreneur, launched many products, some to success, some to failure. Have had the opportunity to be in the trenches with sales teams, marketing teams, product teams, CS teams. So yeah, hoping to provide kind of a startup and earlier stage and CEO perspective to this.
Brilliant. Jason, let's stay with you. Let's make no assumptions here. Why are product launches so important?
Yeah. Well, certainly at my stage, it can kill a company. It's when you're fragile and early stage, you can kill it. But I think broadly, like launch impacts customer acquisition, it impacts retention and expansion, it impacts brand, market momentum. You got a poor launch, you've got people that are not going to pay attention. They're going to be on to the next thing. It's an ADD oriented world. If they get confused in any way, shape, or form, they're lost, they're on to the next thing. A successful launch, you got happy customers, new customers, more revenue, market momentum. I think of, there's an app that launched during COVID called Clubhouse that did an amazing job of hitting it out of the park on a launch, right? With the invite dripping, the celebrity shows, the kind of the targeted ICP that they hit, and they built that momentum. Probably the best tornado launch that I've seen any startup do, but fueled by very targeted, very planned, very well executed, very well oiled launch. And it's now worth several billions of dollars. So yeah, getting that flywheel spinning is critical on launch.
Brilliant. And you're right. Failed product launches can kill companies, not just small, but even large. And so I think everyone will nod their head in agreement when you ask them, are product launches strategic and are they important to your organization? And they're all nodding their head. But yet, most product launches fail. And so, Ryan, I'm going to turn to you. Why do you think companies, obviously not Gong, everything you guys touch turns to gold, it seems. Why do so many companies struggle to get product launches right?
Yeah, there's definitely a bunch of ways that things could go wrong. One of them that I have seen is there's not a one way to do a product launch. If you create a product launch playbook, steps 1, 2, 3 are going to be different across the board. It is definitely not one size fits all. Kind of stemming from that, not everything deserves a parade. A lot of times, different teams are going to be super hyped about something that they've spent a ton of time working on. But if that market fit isn't there, we're going to celebrate it, but we're going to celebrate it differently. Maybe that doesn't need a dedicated event. Maybe that doesn't need some huge billboard or a Super Bowl commercial somewhere. It's really identifying the differences in what you're launching, that market fit, and essentially tiering them out. Your tier ones, your strategic initiatives that are going to move your business, that's the parade. Your tier threes might be a feature that your engineering team has spent months on, which is amazing, but that could be a product awareness email, something that's a little bit lighter weight, but really understanding the differences and what value businesses will see. It's not about how much time your company has spent building, but the value that it brings to your customers, and really speaking to your customers and not necessarily hyping up your own company and product every time. Just keeping that in mind, and who deserves a parade and who doesn't.
I like the shout out to the Super Bowl commercial. That was Udi being bold. I think it was last year.
It was this past Super Bowl. We went big. It was really fun and screaming success, actually. It was awesome.
Brilliant. And Jason, Katie on your team is looking for some funds for your Super Bowl commercial. So
let me work on some funding.
Yeah.
Eric and Ryan, everything you said is tip top. There isn't a one size fit all approach. So we have to strategically think about what this product launch represents for the organization based on your maturity. Eric, who is the author of this product launch plan? Who is in your estimation, the best person to be that launch captain?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I might be a little biased as a product marketer, but I do believe that the product marketer should be the captain, the quarterback, et cetera, of the product launch. And if you think about what a PMM does, it's taking the story of why a product is being built and bringing that product to the market. A launch is bringing the product to market. It is go-to-market strategy. It is messaging. It is naming. It is pricing. It is sales enablement. And there is no, I think, function or role more uniquely poised to deliver that than a product marketer. And so, at least at Salesforce, every major product launch should start with a strategy brief. Why are we building it? Why? To whom? Who's our buyer? Where does this fit into our product portfolio? You know, for us, we have dozens, hundreds of products, maybe even more than hundreds, and understanding the relationship between this new thing and all the other things is super critical. And that's something really I think a product marketer is uniquely positioned to answer. And so for us, it starts with PMM, and they're bringing in all the other teams from content and social to sales and pricing and PR and analysts and customer success and our customer community. And I can go on and on and on, but at the end of the day, the product marketer is the one who should be driving that centralized strategy and then also is responsible for the execution.
Love it. And I full-heartedly agree, but I am also biased. Jason, your impartial strategic hat on. Do you agree that product marketers, someone from the product marketing team should captain product launches? And if so, prior to this launch captain authoring the launch plan, what strategic pre-work needs to go into the launch at the perhaps even before product marketing gets involved?
I think, Rowan, if I said anything other than product marketing, I'd be crucified on this panel. So product marketing, no, look, I think there's a little bit stage dependent here. So if there's folks in the audience that are earlier stage, the CEO has to be highly involved in the earlier stages of product and largely company launches, given the fragility there. But I've seen marketing generalists and even product management own it in that kind of sub 100 person stage. Beyond that, when you've got an established product marketing function, it's clear to me that PMM should own it, and they're the connective tissue between all the other divisions of the company. I can see augmented support with project management because there's a lot of details to unravel and be on top of, but product marketing for sure, when you've got that function established, should own it. In terms of strategic work, I think Eric was just touching on that. Like, it's got to start way before the launch, right? Like, make sure there's a real need for what you're launching. And I've seen that in startup land way too often. Technology looking for a problem, too many failures wrestling the solution before you've really understood it. So research, testing, feedback loops, that kind of thing ahead of time, critical. But when I look at it, and when we at Clue look at it, I look at three things. I look at alignment, I look at knowing our target buyer or ICP, and I look at success metrics. So on alignment, I think of the resources. Ryan, you were talking about that. How much do you put into kind of a new product release versus a minor upgrade? Your effort budget, people are going to align accordingly. Also think about campaigns. Like, you've got other campaigns that are running. And so do you weave your way into those existing demand gen campaigns, or do you start something fresh and there's competition for that airtime? So you need to think about alignment there. On the ICP side, like, it's deeply understanding your buyer. What are the key issues? What are the needs? What are the wants? What are the desires? So they have a seat at the table. Are they fighting for one? Do they have budget? Do they have ownership of that budget, or are they influencing it? And then I also think about what pain do they have themselves versus what pain are they solving for others? Like in Clue's case, we build a product to help product marketing be really efficient on competitive, but they're doing that to help salespeople win business or help product teams build better products. So they've got two masters that they have to serve. So you have to think about that with your ICP. And then lastly, don't overlook, where you're going to find those people. Get your email lists in advance, figure out the conferences in advance. And the third and final piece is the success metrics. Like, they're constantly overlooked and loosely defined in launches that I've seen, and it gets you into trouble. It's like execs will walk in. I'll be like, my friends didn't talk about it at the dinner last night. It must have been a poor launch. You don't want that. You want to make sure that everybody has had input. They've collaborated. They're very specific on the goals and the dates, and you've got full ownership of that and clarity on what success looks like.
Love it. Alignment, just know your audience, quite frankly, and success metrics. On the point of audience, so the launch captain is creating an engagement plan, if you will. And so Ryan, I'll turn to you on this one. What are the audiences that this launch captain ought to consider when they're creating this engagement plan for the launch?
Yeah, I think it's super easy for someone to jump right into, who are my new customers? What are my prospects? And I think that is missing about 75% of who you should be targeting. And that could often lead to a miss. I think as a bare minimum, as a start, you need to think about your internal employees. Like, who is going to be taking your message and speaking to it? You want to make sure that they can completely represent the product and align to the messaging that you're trying to bring to market. And this also includes, depending on the product, like support, help desk. How are they going to help support you? Professional services. How are your partners going to help supporting you as your extended team? Who's going to be speaking about it maybe at a conference? So making sure the entire company is on board with what you're doing. And then sales, of course, is part of that company, but I think that they might deserve a little bit extra love here. How are they going to answer questions? Are they going to actually be able to sell this, depending on what your pricing structure is? So dedicated enablement to them, that would be a primary target for me. And then existing customers. I think your existing customers and your prospect customers should definitely be segmented. You're going to want to work on maintaining those relationships with the customers. And sometimes that can actually get a little bit tricky. How are these customers actually going to be impacted? Do they need to learn how to use your product a whole new way? Is this an enhancement that they could use that we're maybe going to upsell to them? It's really understanding like, what is this doing to your customers? And then having fun with the prospects. What are we going to do to engage them? That's going to be a huge target audience that you're going to want to have fun with and spark their attention, have them become educated. And I mentioned this in the beginning, not necessarily all about your product, but the value to them. And I'm going to keep harping on that, is it's not about your product. It's about the value to your customers and to your prospects, and who is going to ultimately drive that pipeline for you.
I love that. I totally agree. And I'll add one more layer to that. It's not just thinking about the audiences, but it's also what phase of a launch you're referring to, right? People use the word launch all the time. And I'm always asking, well, what is that, right? And you might have many, many launch moments for a specific launch, but then what are you doing before that, right? You're doing your customer research, you're testing your message, you're vetting your strategy with sales teams, with your execs, and so on. You get to the launch moment, it's magic, it's shiny, you get all the activations going, but it shouldn't stop there either, right? And then you're also looking at after launch, how do you keep the conversation going, from follow-up campaigns and account-based marketing to social content, and looking at your metrics, making sure you perform well. And then at the same time, I'm thinking of a recent launch I worked on, which was our acquisition of Slack, which was huge. We had a launch moment, you might say, when we announced the deal. We had a launch when the deal closed. We had a launch moment when we had an event specifically about Slack. Slack is going to be at Dreamforce in a few weeks. Slack has their own conference in October. So you have this pre-launch, launch, post-launch for each of those moments. And then you also triangulate it against multiple audiences. And it's really complex. And I think understanding that what you do in each of those boxes, if you will, I think having that understanding is, maybe why, as you said earlier, 50% of launches fail, right? You take a one-size-fits-all approach for all audiences, all moments. And when you're doing that, you're not really getting to that level of specificity and that level of strategy that each of those boxes commands. So +1 to all that, and just going to add more complexity because it's not complicated enough.
Yeah, think beyond the moment. Like, the moment's cool, but yeah, what's the plumbing before and after?
Yeah, it's like you go to watch a movie, you finish the movie, and then are you talking about it? Probably, right? So how do you keep that conversation going?
Yeah.
Brian, 75% of the people that we miss is beyond just thinking about the buyers and the prospects. There's so many other audience members involved in a launch. Love it. Eric, 100% agree. There's the pre-launch, the launch, and then the post-launch. Let's add another layer of complexity, at least another level. At Salesforce, how do you folks categorize your launches? There is no chance that every launch or release is treated equally. How are you categorizing your launches? And then, accordingly, what is the level of effort for each of those launch tiers, or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, it really does speak to what Ryan said earlier, and maybe because she was at Salesforce when we rolled out our product launch tiering, but we, a few years ago, did a pretty exhaustive audit of our product launches and workshop with a lot of our most senior execs to understand what are the different groups we want to think about. And we did actually roll out a 4-tier tiering framework. A tier 1 launch being something that Mark might talk about in his keynote at Dreamforce, that you're going to see on Mad Money on CNBC. It's going to go all over our homepage: campaigns, paid media, global activations, customer stories, etc. But then we also have a release marketing program, and maybe a tier 3, tier 4 launch is something that just goes in documentation or just goes onto the release website and has a description and a quick demo and everything in between, right? And so when we looked at how do we tier, we looked at how much does this matter to the market as a whole. And so for us, a tier 1 launch is something like Slack, right? Something that truly redefines Salesforce. I'd say a tier lower is maybe if we're introducing a new industry product or a new cloud or a major new add-on product that will have a large number attached to it and is really important to the business, but isn't redefining what Salesforce does as a whole, right? Then you go a level down beneath that, maybe a new feature category, maybe new capabilities. I think of our digital service offerings that we launched as one cohesive product suite a few years ago. And then tier 4, you're looking at features and features of features and enhancements to features of features, right? And they're all very important, but what might matter to a CEO is going to differ from what matters to the really important Salesforce admin who's making this product work at their organization. And then the amount of money we're going to put behind these launches will differ, the investment, the number of people, how global we're going as well as a factor for sure. So it's really, really important. And also as a product marketer, selfishly, I want to know what tier my thing is being assigned, because then I also understand what's expected of me. I understand where there might be some resourcing gaps, and I know how to go to bat for those. And I also know other launches to look to. If I'm launching a tier 2 launch, for example, I'm going to look at other tier 2s that went really well and some tier 2s that we did that maybe didn't go as well, and try to understand where I can learn from that. So I think it helps everyone within the company when you have that rolled out, codified, appreciated, understood. And you certainly get some people saying, oh, my tier 3 is really a tier 2, come on. But at the end of the day, you have to stick to it, because our role on our team is we're not assigned to a specific product. We have this portfolio level perspective. And so that's where we bring value, is helping the left hand know what the right hand's doing in a way, and trying to keep balance that Salesforce shows up as the best it can as a whole.
I can see the advocacy there, Eric. Oh my gosh. I can imagine just people lining up at your door with bribery and gifts. I'm a tier 2, not a tier 2.
The number of times I've bribed Eric at Salesforce to at the NBC, let me
you might have left, but I'm still here and we can't tell anybody about that.
Yeah, it's so fun to see your products though, like showing up in Mad Money. I remember like my first tier 1 was just the shining moment of like launching Salesforce blockchain and seeing Mark talking about it on the news. That was just like the gold medal moment of, hey, that is a tier 1, that is market moving, and it's just a blast, really.
And Eric,
no, I'm kidding.
Eric, you said something that you said it in passing, but it showcases just how customer-centric Salesforce is. You said the overlying question you ask, if this is whether it's a tier 1, 2, 3, is how much does this matter to the market? And then accordingly, you tier the launch. It's not how much effort was put into it by engineering, and as such, you get rewarded with a tier 1 status. It's how much does it matter to the market? And so that customer centricity and that line of thinking is absolutely phenomenal, and as it should be. Ryan, let's set aside the bribing for a moment. We've talked about the types of launches. You noted the types of the various types of audiences that we need to engage with. How is your marketing team at Gong specifically engaging customers, prospects, influencers, or is it as simple as Udi sends out a LinkedIn post, 10,000 likes later, everyone knows about it, and you're done?
I mean, his reach is great and very, very helpful. So I'm never going to say that those are not appreciated. Something that is very unique about Gong actually goes well beyond marketing. So Gong has 7 value props, one of which is win as a team. Like, we are not a bunch of silos. This is one massive ship and we're working together. And that really comes to life when we're engaging all of the different audiences. It's the orchestra. It's the orchestra well beyond marketing. So when we engage with customers, I want to bring in our badass ABM team. So like Laura is just rocking it with ABM, working on these amazing events, engaging with customers, maintaining the relationships, bringing in our customer marketing friends. Jane and Trish are just killing it there, building these stories, building these programs around our amazing customers. It's bringing that piece of the orchestra. So when I'm going to go after prospects, like, hey, what's up, demand gen friends? Like Russell, Danny, like you've probably seen Devin Reed go crazy on Gong Labs. It's just getting together with demand gen and just having fun. Like, if we're having fun, others can have fun as well. Super Bowl commercials. Have you seen our billboards in Times Square? being better isn't always enough. If your product is better, like that's great, but being different is what gets you noticed. Always, of course, we're going to want to be better, but we need to break the norm, do something that's different. Our LinkedIn presence is really helping us to differentiate ourselves. Udi getting 10,000 likes by just sneezing on a keyboard, like that's awesome. But how are we going to stand out? In addition, you also mentioned influencers as well. Having those relationships and building those strong partnerships, that is key for a launch, but that is not just a launch. That's not going to be like, hey, Kanye, like, what's up? Can you send a tweet? These are relationships that you need to have for years to come, years prior. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's a launch moment, but those are folks that you need to just constantly work with, be friends with, and then just have them as resources when you do launch a product, that they're going to be your advocates and their reach is going to be noticing it as well.
Love it. And Eric, beyond, Udi sneezing on keyboards and launching products is brilliant. It's foolproof. But Mark going on CNBC and Mad Money and just touting the effects of a product. Beyond that, how is Salesforce innovatively launching products? How are they engaging, not launching products, how are they engaging your customers and your prospects and your influencers?
So one thing you commented on earlier was that you're, perceiving this customer centricity, and I can 1,000% double down on that. I think one of the launch strategies Salesforce uses that's maybe a little bit unique, but I think the way we do it is unique, is customer marketing. And we have a very large team of people led by an amazing colleague of mine who they bring customers in to tell the stories of our product launches. So it's not always the GM or the head of product marketing telling the story of why product XYZ is so amazing. It's going to be the CEO of a company that maybe went through it with a pilot, and now they're seeing real ROI and real value to their organization from that product. And we try to have customers tell their stories as part of every single product launch, the big ones, every single product launch we do, because we know it's more powerful, right? You want to hear from people who are using it, not the people who are making it and selling it. And so I think that customer marketing first mindset is so important at Salesforce. I think it is something that really sets us apart, and something that I think helps our customers, our prospects, even our sales teams really understand the value, back to that word Ryan used earlier, the value of a product. It's going to be best when you're hearing it from the person who bought it and is using it. And likewise, we're not afraid to hear constructive feedback from our customers about new products. We do a lot of product listening to understand what's working and what isn't. And I think that two-way relationship really, really is symbiotic, and it does give our launches a little extra magic.
Love it. Jason, hey there. Haven't forgotten about you. At this stage of the launch process, a plan is in motion to engage the various audiences that we have to account for. In parallel, talk to us about what your team is doing to ensure that internal readiness, sales, customer success, various members of the marketing team. What are the best practices that sales enablement within launches need to be thinking through, or revenue enablement, I should say, should be thinking through as they ready themselves for this launch?
First of all, I'd love the resources of a Mark on Mad Money, or to have Kanye tweet, but I got to get into the trenches and have salespeople understand how these products are going to be structured relative to market alternatives. So yeah, the sales readiness piece is really where companies like ours really have to focus on some execution. Although I will have to, Ryan and Gong, with kind of, I'll call it employee marketing. You kind of turned your own employees into influencers. Udi's not alone in that. And I think that's an underutilized source of influence that you can bring to any launch, is empowering your employees to do a lot of the marketing with you, and not just trumpeting it, actually having their own voice around that. So wanted to tip that. The other on the sales alignment piece and the best practices. Look, I think In a bigger company, you're going to have a fit issue of where does this new offering, new product, new upgrade fit relative to the other offerings they're selling. Are they going to lead with this product? Is it a sweetener to existing products? You're going to be looking at comp models and spiff alignment around that. That's going to kind of touch into what sales leadership is going to be looking at. So that's kind of like an alignment question on fit relative to the new offering. Then you've got the classics of education, right? Ensuring that they have the confidence to sell this new offering against whatever market alternatives there, whether it's status quo or some entrenched competitors. So to do that, ahead of like traditional learning webinars and campaigns, we like to look at a handful of influential people, whether they're salespeople or leaders, and we kind of work with them ahead of time. And we do this not only in Clue, but we do it with our clients when we're actually trying to roll out a competitive enablement program. We kind of get the smaller advisory group to get them on their side, on our side of what's going on, train them up ahead of time, make them feel like insiders, give them an edge so that they'll support the initiative and be influential when you get others moaning and groaning that there's one other new thing that they have to push out there, a product or an offer. So less about spiffs and much more about an exclusive club. And the last thing I'll end with is on internal readiness is we often forget about the marketing that's needed for our own employees, the marketing campaign that's required, the creativity to get them to engage. They're inundated with other communications. So hype videos internally, the memes in Slack, we use a lot of humor, personal references of other people on the team. Jim's going to double his quota again with this thing. Back in the office, we've done all sorts of other stuff too, like physical posters. We've done stuff a bunch in bathroom stalls, even guerrilla marketing as people have got off elevators. So we're not there now. So digital means tend to be the favored. But the key salient point here is think about marketing to your own employees to get them engaged. And when they're engaged, that's going to spill over in their own LinkedIn social posts and how much they'll back up your launch and be part of your army.
Love it. And Jason, you use the phrase competitive enablement quite often. Competitive enablement, it's an afterthought during product launches. So two things. What is competitive enablement from your perspective? And why is it so important as part of your internal readiness phase?
Yeah, competitive enablement to me is like, there's a world of competitive intelligence, which is kind of a lookup database of intel. And then there's making sure that people use it. And that's kind of the, stealing the sales enablement side of the equation and saying, look, if we understand what our competitors are up to and we can equip the rest of the organization with responses on how to overcome objections and issues, then we're enabling everybody with that intel. So I think of it as competitive enablement more than I do competitive intelligence. But back it up a level, like when your competitor launches something, like what do? You're all over that, right? Like you as a company are all over that. You dig like crazy to understand what it means for your organization. I don't know, Eric and Ryan, if you were there when HubSpot launched their CRM, but I can bet that Salesforce spent a bunch of time looking at HubSpot's new sales initiative and measuring that competitive threat and developing a plan of attack, and you're pouring all over it. So when you think about your own launches, you want to think about preparing what that response is going to be like. What's the competitors going to say? What are they going to tell their salespeople to say in response to your launch? What talk tracks then are you going to give your own salespeople to combat that competitive FUD? And that's how you're going to update your playbooks and your battle cards on what's new and different and how to overcome those objections. Yeah, the other piece here is like, make sure that you're really clear on what the limitation is of whatever that new feature is. Like, be honest with your internal team. It can't all be a hype piece. Like, is it really better than what your competitors offer? Is it more like a table stake bullet point? Like, for instance, for our company, we offered an analyst service to our product line. We're a product company, we're a software company, so we're pretty light on the services piece. We didn't want our sales team over-indexing on selling the services aspect that some of our competitors were offering, but we did want to mention it, that we now have an analyst service. So we needed to make sure that we found the right line in educating them. So that's all part of kind of where you fit relative to your competitors. And my own personal view is it doesn't have to be super taxing. It can be done quickly and efficiently with a couple hours, and it can dramatically impact the launch success.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's conclude with what does success look like regarding a product launch? So we know that not all product launches are created equal. The appropriate metrics, goals to determine success will not always be the same. So what approach should we take to measure the success of our product launch? What does success look like for product launches? I'll turn it over to all of you. I don't know who wants to go first, but
I can jump in. Let's kick it off. So I think success could mean a lot of different things depending on like where you are in market maturity. I have marketed products and launched products in various phases of maturity, starting with I launched Salesforce blockchain, and that was height of Bitcoin. Everyone is super excited, but the market isn't mature. We're kind of there experimenting early on in the process, and not necessarily going to generate pipe and ACV yet at that point when we're still experimenting, but we're looking at things like press mentions, analyst pickup. Are we seen on various channels? It's new, it's exciting. It's going to change going forward, but the gold medal there was 200 plus press mentions and then Mark talking about it in the media versus later on in the cycle when you've got more proven technology. Another launch that I did was a completely replatformed mobile application for Salesforce. Salesforce, the app that you see on your phone. We just did it from scratch. Mobile first is a thing. Mobile's been proven. We all know that this is something that is going to be valuable and the market maturity is absolutely there. And we were measuring adoption. The goal was 1 million more monthly active users, and that was actually an attainable goal. We had active users. We need 1 million more. And it seems huge. Think of Salesforce's scale, adjust that for the company size, of course. But then we're going to do that. But if that was a free product, if it's a mature paid product, you're going to want to look at your pipeline. Did you generate new? Did you mature existing? Are you closing deals? Are you creating leads? Are we starting a brand new pipeline process? So it really changes depending on the type of product that you're bringing to market.
love it.
Agree. I can tack on to that as well. I think with these really big tier 1 product launches I was talking about earlier, one of the most important goals for us is awareness of the launch. Take Slack for an example. Slack is a hugely successful household name that people know, but the goal of the launch was for people to understand what Salesforce plus Slack together meant. Mm-hmm. And we look at engagement. We look at how many people are joining the event, how many people are following up on CTAs and offers after the event, how many people are watching our demo videos, how many people are reading our blog post, how long are they spending on page to learn about it, right? So, win last week, you want to win business, but at the same time, I think just getting that engagement is super, super critical because we really believe that with the right engagement, it will lead to a win. One other consideration I thought was interesting based on what Ryan was just speaking about is also not just the market maturity, but also where you are within the market. Mm-hmm. So, for Sales Cloud, Salesforce's original product, marquee product, some might say, the definition of CRM in a sense, we're big, we're out there, we have the lion's share of the market. And so we're looking at, how much more can you get, right? How much can you fragment the competitors that are out there? Can you inch a little bit more towards, 100% market share, right? Which is obviously impossible, but that's very different than a brand new product where maybe even a new segment like blockchain, for example, where there are a ton of competitors, or maybe there are really no competitors yet, right? So I think you also have to assess your metrics based on where you are in the market as well as where the market itself is.
Yeah, and I'll triple down on the success metrics. Like we're all talking about kind of specifics there, but just level it up and just say you got to get input from everybody, you got to get buy-in from everybody, and then once you've got realistic, achievable, not too aggressive, not too conservative, Goldilocks level success metrics, you want to post it everywhere and remind everybody that this is what success looks like. So you don't get trapped by the vanity metrics that can pop up later. And the more specific and the more precise, the better. It's 8.3% lift. It's X many mentions. It's not 10% or rounded even to 200. And I think, that helps make it very granular and get everybody to say, okay, that is what we agree to. And if I could pick another, it'd be like very clear and differentiated messaging. It's not generic, vague, similar to your competitors. It's most innovative. You want to have clear, differentiated, specific, unique, and ideally backed with the same proof that you're trying to get your success metrics together on. You can win 80% of dogfight deals with this, and ensure that the sales team really understands that and can navigate the competitor FUD.
Love it. And all I'll add to that, did someone ask me? Oh, I'll share. I'll say, Jason, you used the word vanity. I'll massage that a bit and say there's two buckets that I associate launch metrics to. One is strategic, which take time to get to, but we still have to track. And then the other is more tactical, which we can nuance week to week, month to month, and be agile in that manner. So from a strategic perspective, there's the three holy grail: revenue, net retention, and then upsell, cross-sell for expansion. Those take time, but you still have to track them. And what is this product doing for those three strategic metrics? Then one layer down, you have your tactical bucket of metrics. And from a tactical perspective, we're looking at everything from win rates to leads to impressions. So those are the things that we can fine tune depending on how much we're lagging based on what we said we track towards. So I would urge everyone to bucket the product launch metrics into strategic versus tactical, and the timeline for each be realistic on it, and then go from there. Less so a question, more so an offer. Can you share in closing your one key insight or to-do for all the product marketing launch captains out there that are listening intently?
I'm going to reiterate something that I said before is being better isn't enough. Be different. Change the status quo. Get out of your box. How are you going to differentiate from any other company that could be a competitor or not? Get attention.
Be different. Love it.
I'll say really being able to communicate the why of this launch broadly, especially internally. Every team has its own priority and North Star. And as we've talked about, you're conducting this orchestra, right? You need all the instruments to care, to want to listen, to work with you. And if you're not explaining why this is so important, why this is going to change something or make something or break something, it's going to be hard to get the right people on board. So I think that starting with that strategic conversation and answering the why, but not only doing that, but also communicating it, really shouting it from the rooftops.
Love it.
Clear and achievable success metrics that everybody buys into.
Shocking that the CEO went to hard numbers. Thank you. So be different, know the why, start with the end in mind, meaning the metrics. And I'll add that it's never too early to start planning for that launch because it creeps up sooner than you think. And product management that's listening to this, don't launch something on a Friday and tell us that you're ready to have it go out on Monday. Please just don't do that to us. As you're developing the product, hell, even just before that, if there's a need that has been identified that is worth solving for, bring us in at that point and we can have a wonderfully different launch that is rooted in why with metrics that we're going to crush. So Ryan, Eric, Jason, thank you for your time. Thank you to Close for hosting us. And until the next panel on product launch, have a good one, folks.